Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Carrie Magra, professional speaker, best-selling author, and autism self-advocate. And I'm really excited to be here with all you tonight with Hollie. Hollie is based in the UK. She's 17 years old, and she was diagnosed with autism when she was 9 years old. And now she has the wonderful opportunity to host weekly videos where she actually discusses her journey of not only growing up with autism, but also being an autistic teen and some of the obstacles, but also amazing accomplishments that she has been able to accomplish during her life. Hollie, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So, Hollie, obviously, let's talk a little bit just about how, first off, your diagnosis came about. You were 9 years old.
Yep.
How did that diagnosis come about? How did your parents decide to be like, oh my God, maybe we should go about a diagnosis?
Well, we didn't know for a fact what was like wrong, like why I was different or why I was different to the other children. So my mum took me to a GP. I think I was about 10, no, not 10, sorry, 8. And yeah, it took about a year in general. She thought that I had OCD to start with, but then the people that diagnosed you, they told my mum that it wasn't OCD and that I was gonna be referred and go down the autistic route.
Got it. So obviously, I was even diagnosed with autism when I was 4. When you were going about the diagnosis, did they say you received a late diagnosis? I mean, compared to, so I'm based in the US. What was that about on target for a diagnosis, or was that a late diagnosis in the UK?
I think, well, from what I've heard personally, I think that was quite an early diagnosis for me. As a girl, because girls usually don't really get diagnosed until later in life. From what I've heard, like I've said, I don't know this for a fact, but yeah, I think that it is quite an early diagnosis.
Got it. And Hollie, what was your inspiration behind your YouTube page? Because now you post weekly educational videos. I think it's tremendous.
Thank you. Well, I've always kept my autism diagnosis a secret for most of my life. Because I've never really known much about autism, I hadn't really understood it properly. My parents were the people that kind of did more of the research, and because I was so young, and then when I was a teenager, I was just being a typical teenager and kind of just wanted to hide it from everyone and hide it from myself. I wouldn't even admit it to my parents. I'd just be like, I'm not autistic. I'm fine. And then when I've grown older, I've matured and I've realised that I am different, and I need to embrace that. So obviously, during lockdown, actually, I started doing a lot more research on autism. I've also come out of the school environment. I'm in the sixth form now, so it's kind of a little bit more flexible and a little bit more. It's less daunting for people to know that I am autistic. So yeah, I just thought that I wanted people to know, and I wanted to educate people, because there is a lot of the stereotypical things about autism I kind of didn't really see in myself. But then now I've done more research in lockdown, I've realised that I am autistic, and I need to tell people that they're not so stereotypical like version of autism, and that it's just
Right.
it's very broad. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, 100%. I know that so many people in our community think of autism as only in boys. They think that everyone with autism is great at math, and they think that every single person with autism lacks empathy and doesn't communicate well.
Absolutely.
And obviously, both of us are communicating tonight. What are some of the stereotypes that you currently see in the autism community that you wish people would stop making?
I definitely have thought, like the whole, like you've just said, maths, computers, There's a lot of stereotypes about someone with autism being really bright and like geniuses and have amazing memories and things like that. And that was when I first got my autism diagnosis. That was what I was researching. I'm thinking, I'm none of these things. I have empathy, and I think it's kind of the complete opposite way around for me. And I do have a lot of empathy, and I get really, if I think I'd upset someone in some way, and I mean, I can be quite blunt, but if someone got upset by that, I would feel really, really bad, and I'd feel really guilty for it. Where someone with autism is not supposed to do that. Do you know what I mean?
No, I absolutely know what you mean 100%. And for people watching at home, when I look at the bottom of the screen, I'm looking at your amazing comments that you are writing in for Hollie for tonight's video. Hollie, let's go back a little bit to when you were diagnosed at 9. So what were some of your earliest memories about being diagnosed with autism? Did your parents tell you about your diagnosis right away, or did that come later?
They told me about the diagnosis, but obviously I was 9 years old. I didn't understand the diagnosis. I understood at that age that I was a bit different. I liked my own company. I had problems socializing at school. So obviously I kind of had a bit of a background. I kind of knew what was going on. However, my parents did tell me that I was autistic, but I didn't know what that meant really. So yeah. And
as you got older, how did you decide basically that you wanted to become an autism advocate? It's like, what were some of the first memories that you had about really kind of embracing your autism diagnosis? Because you mentioned at the beginning, you kind of kept it secret for a little time.
Yeah, I have. And I feel kind of ashamed now because obviously, I'll be honest, and I was quite embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I was autistic because, well, in the past, I've always kind of been, people have known about my autistic diagnosis because my teachers have known, and I think pupils in my class kind of clicked on that I was autistic. And obviously I heard things in school and of autism being kind of said as an insult, and like non-autistic people used to call other people like, oh, like I failed a test, I'm so autistic, or and that made me feel really embarrassed. I was like, I don't want to tell anyone I'm autistic because people are using it as an insult. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, that kind of made me a bit embarrassed. But then I realized that I wanted to start talking more about autism because I didn't want that to be the case anymore, because autism shouldn't be used as an insult. It's a person's like identity. Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely do. And it's part of who you are, and it's part of just what makes you who you are. So we have a lot of comments coming in. We actually have a lot of autistic people writing in and talking a little bit about their journeys. I actually like this one because it was kind of talking a little bit about what you were talking about with just nerves. UN writes, I'm autistic and sometimes I get a bit nervous when I ask something. And I think someone might have found that offensive. Was that something that you had to deal with? Because, for example, when I was growing up, sarcasm would like completely go over my head. I wouldn't understand jokes.
Yeah, me neither. I kind of can now a little bit, because I'm around the same people, and when I'm around the same people, I can kind of learn their humor, learn their mannerisms, and kind of know when someone's being sarcastic. However, now if I don't know someone well and if I've just met someone and they're sarcastic, it will just completely go over my head. So yeah, I do get nervous sometimes when like I ask something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Hollie, first off, just for our viewers at home, what is the name of your YouTube page? And I also know you're also on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, and I've also started TikTok as well. I'm new on there, so I'm not great, but yeah, I've just made a new account, and yeah, I'm on YouTube, and it's just Hollie Mabbott. Yeah, I do weekly videos about autism, and more specifically autism in girls, because obviously I'm a girl. So yeah, I'm just telling my story, really, my
Awesome.
opinions and experiences.
Nice. So, Hollie, obviously there is a lot of topics that we could talk about in the autism community. What has been one of your favorite YouTube videos that you've done? Well, what has been one of your favorite topics you've talked about so far as part of your YouTube page?
Well, for me, it will definitely be the first video I did, which was the childhood autism traits, because for me it kind of brought everything to life. It made me feel confident. Do you know what I mean? Like, I finally told people that I am autistic, and it kind of gave me the confidence to then speak about other things, and my opinions. So that will always be my favorite video that I've done. And obviously it kind of highlights the differences in traits as well, because everyone has such broad traits. There is no set autism traits, really, is there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love you have some fans who are on tonight. Somebody named Declan just wrote, "Oh, you know Declan, give Declan a shout out while we're on tonight. Why not?" I don't know where you are, Declan, but you're showing love. You're her PR agent. That's what's up. That's awesome.
Deck's actually my boyfriend.
Oh, that's awesome! Congratulations.
That's why I was laughing. So I know who he is.
How long have you two? Well, I mean, obviously we're on a public forum. I won't go into too many details, but that's great. That's great. He's giving you a shout out, and he's showing you love for your YouTube page. We had this comment come in from Nina, who writes, "My son is 13. He hates being autistic and hates life, thinks everything is pointless. Do you have any advice?" So Hollie, obviously in our community, autism is a very wide spectrum. And I know that a lot of individuals sometimes have challenges embracing their autism diagnosis. What advice would you give to this young teenager who is really just trying to, I guess, kind of understand more about his diagnosis and embrace who he is?
I would say to definitely take each day as it comes, and to also, I feel like social media these days does show you that there is a lot of autistic people who have autism or autistic people on the platform. And when I was younger, I didn't really maybe it was out there, but I didn't really know that. Since doing my YouTube, I've realized that there is an autistic community online, and it's a kind of way that people can connect with each other, and you can learn more about yourself, learn more about autism. But I do understand how he's feeling, because I was there, but since coming on social media, I've realized that there's people to talk to about it, and there's so many opportunities out there for autistic people.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some places on Facebook that you like to go to talk about your diagnosis?
Facebook groups, definitely. I've started talking on TikTok. There's a massive autistic community on TikTok that I didn't realize at all until I started doing TikToks on my own. And then I saw all the comments, and I was looking at, and obviously I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, there's people on here like me. So obviously, yeah, that's TikTok's amazing for that. And yeah.
Awesome. So, Hollie, obviously there is a lot of misconceptions, and we already talked about a few of them. Mm-hmm. What would you say is one thing that you wish people would stop saying to you? For example, people say, Carrie, you have autism, but you don't look like you have autism. And that really gets on my nerves.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. I was like, yeah, people first meet. Well, I don't say, oh, I'm Hollie, I'm autistic. But once I get to know someone and I tell them about my diagnosis, they're like, but really, you don't look like you've got autism. And I'm like, ah, didn't realize it had a face. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't realize that autism had a face. So yeah. There is just massive stereotypes of what someone believes an autistic person is like, really, isn't there?
Yeah.
False assumptions.
False. Absolutely false. Absolutely. So, Hollie, while I was actually kind of just looking at your YouTube channels, I was really curious because you're based in the UK. And one of the Facebook Lives we did a few weeks ago was from Daniel Jones from the Aspie world. Do you know him? Do you have a relationship with him? Like, are you two friends?
We're not friends. However, I have reached out to him recently. I've always known who he is, and I've watched his YouTube videos, but I never thought to get in touch because I thought, oh, he's never going to see it. So I didn't get in touch with him until I did my own YouTube video. So I thought, oh, I'll just give it a shot. I'll give it a shot and I'll email. And I did, and he replied, and I was absolutely over the moon because he is behind kind of an inspiration, really, and where I get some of the inspiration from for my videos, that I kind of take the topics and kind of make it my own. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I absolutely, yeah, I understand that 100%. And also from the perspective of just girls on the autism spectrum, because I don't know if there are numbers in the UK, but boys are diagnosed 4 times more often than girls in the US. Yeah. Is that similar in the UK?
I'm not 100% sure on statistics, but from what I've heard, it is a lot more difficult to get a diagnosis as a girl in the UK compared to boys. From what I've heard, a lot of girls get like misdiagnosed with other things like OCD, ADHD, and then maybe get diagnosed with autism later in life.
Awesome. So everyone, again, my name is Dr. Carrie Magro, professional speaker, best-selling author, and autism self-advocate. We are here with Hollie, who's discussing her journey of growing up on the autism spectrum, who's now a teen, who's accomplishing great things. If you have a question for Hollie, write it in the comments of this Facebook page, and we will try to get to as many comments as we can during this interview tonight. We have a few more people who have been writing in and who are just talking about their own journeys of being diagnosed. For example, we have this comment that came in. My son is 12 years old, autistic. We moved to Morocco and he became addicted to devices. His phone is off. He will beat it or flash it in the water. How can... Asma, I'm going to ask for a little bit more clarification on this, just so we can get a little bit more information on this. But Hollie, just out of curiosity, growing up, were you kind of like obsessed with technology? Because I know so many people on the autism spectrum who absolutely love iPads. They love technology. Were you similar when you were growing up?
No, I wasn't actually. I did have my own obsessions. However, technology wasn't one of them. But I do know a lot of autistic people who are quite obsessed and fixated on like technology. I was more into the TV shows and like American TV shows. Actually, I was very obsessed. I've watched them over and over and over again. It was kind of my escape, really, and how I got out of real life world and went into a different world.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are some of your favorite shows?
Vampire Diaries.
It's a good show. It's a good show. I had a crush on the lead who is in the X. She's in the X-Men movies as Rogue. And she went over to the Vampire Diaries, and I tried to watch Vampire Diaries. It wasn't for me, but I know a lot of people who are obsessed with it. For people who are watching at home, obviously you mentioned really quickly that you know a lot of people who are obsessed with technology. In our autism community, it feels like some people with autism have like a laser key focus on certain things. What are some of the things that you would say are like some of your greatest interests in your life?
Recently, it's been this YouTube, autism. This is my most recent fixation, and that's something that I've been researching a lot of, and maybe like other, like OCD, ADHD, everything like that, like mental health. I've become like psychology. I am studying psychology as well, so obviously I do have to study it anyway. So it's good that I'm studying something that I'm also really interested in. And throughout my life, I've had so many different things. It's hard to really pinpoint. I've said TV shows where I literally know all the lines to loads of TV shows. Yeah, I can't really think of massive interests. Stereotypically, I have actually been interested in maths a lot as well. I kind of am. Yeah.
Nice. Is that something you would like to do one day for a career? It's like, what are some of your aspirations and goals?
So, well, I've always wanted to be, when I was younger, I wanted to work in like MI5, which was like, I don't know if you've heard of that. That was like what I wanted to do when I was younger, but now I just want to help people. So I was thinking, I was looking at like different jobs, and I always thought maybe a social worker, because social workers are supposed to help people, aren't they? So I thought maybe that, or maybe a detective. I always wanted to be a police detective because I really enjoy figuring things out, like maths, like I've just said. So yeah, that's kind of, I've obviously YouTube. Hopefully that might lead somewhere, but who knows?
So Hollie, I don't know if you know this, but you mentioned police detective. So one of my favorite stories about talking about police detectives is that Dan Aykroyd grew up with two key interests, one being a crime detective and the second being a ghost hunter. And he actually came out with Ghostbusters in the 80s. And a little bit later on, actually came out about having autism. Did you know that?
No, I wasn't aware about that. That's incredible, though, that is.
Yeah. So we have a comment. We will get to that comment. Oh my God, you just got like 8 comments all at once, and I want to try to go in a row. You're very popular, Hollie. You are though. You are, and all your YouTube videos are getting a lot of views and everything. Justin writes, Hollie, what kind of career do you really want to be? So obviously you were mentioning police detective. Obviously you're still in school, but if you could only pick one thing to do later on in life, what do you think that would
be? That is difficult because I'm someone that changes my mind every 5 seconds. One minute I'm wanting to be a police detective, another a social worker, another time a psychologist. I have such a broad range of interest. Ooh. Yeah, I think I would like to be maybe a social worker. We're going to go with a social worker because I think I do want to work with people with disabilities, and I think that you can do that as a social worker. I've wanted to help people with different disabilities. I've had an interest in like autistic children recently. I've always wanted to maybe guide and help parents who are not struggling, but do you know what I mean? Like may need a bit of advice, a bit of guidance, not know where to go. I mean, obviously there's not one set of instructions of how to parent a child, like an autistic child, but I think it would always be nice to have someone there who has experienced it, if maybe you're not understanding what your child really needs, or maybe your child's finding it difficult to communicate what they need. So yeah, I do think maybe helping autistic children or helping parents with autistic children may be something I do want to do. Maybe that might just be via YouTube or what I'm doing now. So yeah.
Nice. I absolutely love that. This question came in from Amanda. Hey, Amanda. Thanks for joining us tonight. Amanda writes, hi, I have a quick question. My son is 5 and was diagnosed at 3. He's been in ABA therapy and special needs preschool and pre-K. I'm just hearing now that ABA is trauma-inducing. Have either of you been through ABA, and is trauma-inducing growing up? Holly, what were your therapies growing up?
I haven't had any. I haven't had any therapy whatsoever. I was just diagnosed. The only time I ever was, because the UK child mental health services is CAMS, and that was where I got diagnosed. And after I was diagnosed, I wasn't offered any counselling, any therapy whatsoever. I am now getting therapy through my college, my sixth form. Weekly, I'm just about to start that now, but I've never had, growing up, I've had no therapy at all.
Wow. Huh.
My mum's kind of like my therapist, really. Tell her everything.
Oh, well, I'm glad you have a tight connection with your mom. So what for you would you consider some of your greatest challenges that you grew up with? And I know we talked a little bit offline. What would you consider one of your greatest successes?
Finishing school, getting qualifications, because there's times at school where I thought, I'm not gonna be able to do this. I'm not gonna be able to finish school. And my mum was gonna, at one point, it got to a point where my mum was gonna take me out of school. The exam, I went through a lot of stress with exams. I don't deal with a lot of tasks very well, and obviously, and stress, I deal with stress in not the best way at all. So obviously through that such a stressful time, and then obviously going to school, which was a very social environment, you had to socialize for 6-7 hours a day, and I'm fine with socializing on like an hour basis a day. Other than that, I find it very exhausting. And obviously, I don't know if you've heard of the term, well, you will have done, obviously, masking. I masked a lot at school, so obviously it was very exhausting for me, and I was coming home exhausted. I'd have meltdowns. It was just, my mum found it was very difficult for my mum watching it. She obviously, I had to go to school, and I found it very traumatizing, and my mum was very close to taking me out of school, but I didn't. I got through it, and yeah, I've now kind of come out the other end, and I go to lessons at sixth form, and it's much more flexible, and I enjoy it 10 times more than what I ever enjoyed school. So yeah, that will definitely be one of my greatest accomplishments, finishing school, and that feeling at the end when I thought, done it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love that. So Holly, in our community, we have a lot of people who are bullied, and I feel like sometimes girls especially get a lot of bullying, and sometimes people don't understand that these girls might have autism, they might have challenges with social and communication challenges, and might not be able to stand up for themselves. Did you growing up ever have to deal with bullying at all?
I did have to go. I'm not going to say that it wasn't bullying in how you see bullying on the telly. It wasn't like when you see bullying in like films and stuff, it was like when you're like getting your head in the toilet and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's nothing as severe as that, but I think it was very it was very psychological for me, and I was bullied in I don't really like to use that term as much for me, because it was they didn't really understand me and understand that I was autistic and understand that the person that I was in school wasn't actually me. So I got picked on, essentially, for being someone that wasn't actually really me at all. It was because I was masking. It wasn't. So I was bullied a little bit, but it wasn't for my entire duration of school, and I got through it at the end of the day, and I think it only made me stronger, to be fair, and now I could deal with something like that if it ever happened to me again with more maturity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we had a few more comments coming in. Erica just writes and says, "Hey, Erica, I have 2 autistic sons, 8 and 7 years old. Hope they are successful like the 2 of you." Thank you so much for that sweet comment, Erica. So, Hollie, this makes me think a little bit of just, do you have any role models that you currently look up to in the autism community that inspire you?
Yes. As you have actually mentioned, the Aspie World on YouTube, Daniel. I don't know if you've heard of Paige. Can't pronounce the last name.
Lyle.
Yeah.
On TikTok, and she's on TikTok. I think.
Yeah, she has made YouTube videos recently as well. But yeah, I saw her on TikTok originally, and yeah, it was her TikToks that kind of inspired me, because obviously she's a girl like me, and she's she isn't the same age as me or anything, but she's younger, and I kind of saw her doing it with so much confidence, and I thought, that could be me. I could do that. So yeah, that's where it started, really.
And I think she's also international. I believe that actually, no, she's in Canada, but she's still international, and I think she has like 2.4 million views on TikTok, or 2.4 million followers on TikTok. I mean, it's truly amazing, and hopefully our platforms can have that one day. That would be amazing. Oh, wow. I absolutely love this, because you're getting some mom love. Julie writes, "Hollie has a brilliant mom who has done everything for her." And Hollie's, oh, look at you. You're blushing a little bit. Sorry. And Hollie's family wouldn't change her for the world. That is amazing. Who were some of just the people in your life who really made a difference for you growing up? I know obviously you mentioned your mom. Who else in your family were kind of just there for you to support you?
My granddad. My granddad was kind of I spent a lot of time with my granddad growing up, and kind of look up to him. I'm not sure if he's watching right now, but I've kind of looked at and I'm very much, I can see myself in my granddad, so obviously I can kind of relate to him. He's not autistic or anything. No one in my family is autistic, but he has not traits of autism, but he can understand what I mean by when I'm explaining things to him, he understands what I mean. And yeah, he'd be the one that'd pick me up from school and things like that, and see me when I was exhausted. So yeah, other than my mum, my granddad, definitely.
Awesome. I love that. And shout out to my mom and my dad, because without their support, I wouldn't be who I am today. And just, it takes a village. I keep telling people that, and it really just rings true. I mean, regardless if you have autism or not, we all need people in our lives who are going to support us. So Hollie, I'd love to ask this question to most of the self-advocates I interview. If you were, and obviously you're in the UK, if you were, so in the US, I would say, if you were the president, what would be, if you were the president for a day, what would you like to see done for people with disabilities that's not being currently done already?
I would say there needs to be more, especially people in like authority, as in like teachers, police. Do you know what I mean? I think that they need to have proper training by someone who is autistic, because no one can really explain what an autistic person needs other than an autistic person. Even if you are trained and you are a psychologist and you've studied autism, it can never be told like an autistic person can tell their own story, really. And I think that maybe not just every people in authority, I think everyone needs to be more educated on the realities of autism in everyday life, not just the stereotypes, the assumptions of autism. I know you said disabilities in general, and I have just linked it back to autism, but I think that's the same in every disability. I think that there needs to be more awareness across all celebrities, not celebrities, across all disabilities.
Celebrities too, though. Celebrities too, because we could definitely use a lot more celebrities highlighting autism and educating the world about autism too. On my blog, carriemagro.com, I have written 3 blogs on siblings who have celebrity siblings who have an autistic sibling, celebrity autism moms, and then celebrity autism dads. When I was just curious about who was actually really spotlighting our community, and I learned that like Dan Marino, who's the NFL football player, had a son who's on the spectrum. Obviously Temple Grandin, who is also herself on the autism spectrum, who is considered a celebrity. But there's so many celebrities that I feel like should really just branch out, because autism is like one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in our country. And we definitely need more support for those on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, 100%.
This is a great comment from Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for joining us tonight. Stephanie writes, I have 2 autistic sons, and my 3rd son needs to be evaluated as well because he's following in his brother's footsteps. He is 2. I'm the proudest mom of my boys. You're both amazing, Carrie and Hollie. Hollie, and I actually love this question that I just lost. Oh, here we go, from Judy. Hey, Judy. Judy writes, are either of you familiar with Carly Fleshman? Have you heard of Carly Fleshman?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
So, your granddad is watching and he's so proud of you. Susan wrote in the comments. That's awesome. So Carly Fleshman, yeah, Judy, I absolutely love Carly Fleshman. Carly Fleshman, for people at home who don't know who Carly Fleshman is, definitely look her up. She's a friend. She is nonverbal. She wrote a New York Times bestselling book based on her life called Carly's Voice. And she actually wants to become one of the first nonverbal talk show hosts, which I think is an amazing, incredible goal. Carly is kind of unfortunately regressed recently, so she's not communicating via her iPad anymore. But we're really, really hoping that Carly is able to pull through and is able to communicate again, because she has a very amazing perspective.
Absolutely. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, she is. For people at home who were interested in following Hollie on TikTok, this is the link. You could go into the comments if you would like to follow her there as well. We have a question that came in from Carla. Hey, Carla. Carla writes, what do you think about the autistic adults who are angry? Oh, okay, she wrote this. Autistic adults who are angry with Autism Speaks and the puzzle versus the infinity symbol. Hollie, do you like the puzzle piece? Do you prefer the infinity symbol? What are kind of some symbols in the autism community that you kind of represent?
I think it kind of depends on the individual. I think maybe to pronounce it as infinite symbol, yeah? Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. I think that is the symbol that I would go by. However, it honestly does vary for each autistic individual. And I'm not gonna promote any symbol really, because I wouldn't want to offend either anybody really. So I'm just kind of like blank on it. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it does.
No.
I think it really does depend on each person, and it's kind of a debated topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, Hollie, you're a teen, and one of the big questions that comes up in our autism community revolves around autism and puberty. And there are a lot of people who talk about the transition to adulthood and everything that goes along with that. What were some of your greatest challenges kind of transitioning to your teenage years, especially being on the autism spectrum specifically, if you have any memories?
I would definitely say that I really struggled with the emotions, the change of emotions, and how high school, obviously, I know this isn't kind of puberty, but obviously going into your teenage years, you went from primary school to high school, which was a massive step up, a massive change, and I don't deal with change very well. So yeah, I dealt with that I didn't deal with that like great at the time. Obviously, throughout my teenage years, I dealt with it better. And there's obviously a prime. When you first go through puberty, obviously it's very intense, and you kind of mature as you go through your teenage years. I struggle sensory kind of wise with like periods and things like that. I was like showering all the time, and that was a massive issue for me, being a girl, obviously. And yeah, that's it really. I mean, there was obviously a lot of different problems at the time, which I've overcome, and my problems have kind of changed, and new problems arrive, and yeah, do you know what I mean? So everything kind of changes, and I deal with things better than other things, and yeah. So it's kind of hard to remember exactly from when I was like 13, 14, but those are the things that really stand out for me.
Absolutely. I love this question from Casey. Hey, Casey, thanks for joining us tonight. Casey writes, what is the most helpful thing a teacher has done or could have done for you as a child?
I had two teachers that were my maths and my English teacher that were incredibly supportive at my school. And they couldn't have done any more really. I really did struggle with friendships in school. I had very small knit friendship group, but obviously I'm like I am, when someone really gets to know me, I'm like an open book, and they, as I've mentioned, I didn't have any counselling or therapy. They were kind of like, I'd go to my maths teacher, my English teacher, both maybe for different reasons, and I'd kind of just sit through and talk. I mean, they never really did anything as such, but they didn't really need to. It was kind of more for me to just let out what was how I was feeling. And so I was kind of say for a teacher to let a child speak to you really, and let them just open up to you really, without, because I didn't want anything to happen. If I wanted to go to a teacher, I wanted to tell them things in confidence, and I wanted it to just stay that way. I didn't really want anything done about things. I kind of just wanted to just speak to them in confidence. And I think that trust is very important with the teacher pupil, and maybe not even maybe this is anyone really, not just autistic children, but I think as a teacher, to have trust with a pupil is very important, and for a pupil to be able to trust a teacher is very important, especially for an autistic child, because obviously, like, for an autistic child, we kind of take everything, we are kind of like an open book, and we kind of do, especially, I'm not speaking for every autistic child, but for me,
right.
I trust everyone like equally, and I have like, I kind of maybe tell everyone everything and don't really like filter what I say. And for like it was very important for me to be able to do that in school, without it going further and without a teacher can't really say what I mean, but yeah, I think it was just important to trust a teacher and to have a good relationship with a teacher, and that really got me through school. Definitely.
I love the comments, because they're talking about how trust is important, and it's really important to have that rapport. And one of the things I do as a public speaker is I go into the school systems and I talk about the importance of teaching the way our students learn. But doing that means that you need to have trust first and foremost, but you also have to meet them where they are in their development, because if you met one person with autism, you met just that one person with autism. So I absolutely loved that you mentioned the whole trust topic.
Yeah, and getting to know, I think that as a teacher, getting to know an autistic pupil, each autistic pupil, any pupil with disabilities, because some of the children might not have a wide range of friends. I know I didn't. I had one or two friends. So obviously I felt quite lonely at times, and there was times where I needed to go sit in a teacher's like office, classroom, maybe instead of go out and socializing with all the pupils at break and lunch. And that was kind of what I needed, and that might be what other autistic children need, just a break from socializing, because it is quite intense, is the school environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hollie, I was actually watching one of your YouTube videos before we jumped on, and that's for everyone watching at home. That's why I'm a little bit late, and this is why the Facebook Live was a little bit late tonight. And it was about meltdowns.
Yeah,
that is something that impacts, I feel like, a majority of autistic children. What would be some things that you would recommend if somebody who is autistic is having a meltdown?
Are we talking child or adult?
Well,
because obviously, if it was a child, obviously, I think it's very important to maybe establish, if you don't have if you have communication problems, then it's very, for me, communication with my mum was always necessary, and I needed to have a very strong bond with my mum, because obviously she is neurotypical, and she won't understand how I'm feeling, and she's never going to understand the reasons for me having a meltdown, because she isn't autistic. So it was very important for me to try and communicate how I'm feeling the best I can, to kind of make her understand what I needed in that kind of situation. And it always helped, because obviously my mum, it's been a learning curve for my mum throughout the years. When we didn't know I was autistic, it was me having a meltdown was kind of seen as me being quite naughty, and obviously that isn't the case, but that's what people thought. There was like, oh, she's having a tantrum and she's trashing the room and she's being naughty, and that's how people would have seen me as a child. But because I've communicated well with my mum, and that she now understands that really isn't the case, and I feel after I've had a meltdown, and it's kind of a meltdown for me is a release of all the built up energy. It's like an iceberg, and it's like, well, no, a kettle. Like, that's how I kind of described it in my video. It's like a kettle boiling up. And for me, when I have a meltdown, it's never just one set problem. It's a bunch of things, like, all impacting together. It's like an overwhelm. I'm overwhelmed with loads of different emotions, whether that's sensory, whether that's change of routine, change in general, whether that's socializing. All of it will impact and have a ginormous, like, meltdown. And my mum is actually, when I was younger, I just used to just have a meltdown, but whereas now my mum has seen the signs of it building up, and she does things that help me, like whether that comes and sits with me. We watch, as I mentioned, I like watching American TV programs like Vampire Diaries. We'll sit and we'll watch the Vampire Diaries, and because she now knows the signs, because I've communicated with her in the past, the meltdowns are a lot less frequent than what they was when I was a child. But I do understand that communication can be a problem for some autistic children. So what I can say to an autistic parent is, even though a child might find it difficult to communicate, it's kind of more the parent kind of needs to maybe write down, like, the signs. So if the child had, like, a meltdown, maybe write down what happened before the meltdown, or what it could be, or do you know what I mean? So then they know from when they'll see the signs of it happening again. And that's kind of what I've done myself. I kind of after a meltdown, I think to myself, what was the cause of this, and
Right.
I will then try and prevent that from happening again. I mean, obviously some of the causes of a meltdown will never completely stop, because for me, I mean, changes happen in the real world. Change is always going to affect me no matter what, and it's been difficult to deal with, definitely, but I've kind of got my own coping mechanisms now to deal with change, and that's something that is different to when I was younger, because as soon as change happened, it'd be like meltdown. I just have a meltdown, and now I can kind of, like, rationalize it and calm myself, whether that's I'll speak to my mum, I love food, I'll order some takeaway, I'll do things that make me happy to try and take my mind off the change that's gone on throughout the day, and maybe focus on something that is more like that's going well that week, and something else, that instead of, like, just focusing on the things that have gone wrong that day, try and focus on the positives, which can be very difficult. I do understand that.
I love what you said about the signs, because that is something I promote often. I always say that the most important thing you can do for a child who's autistic when they're having a meltdown is try to figure out what those triggers are, those signs. What is it? Is it a bright light? Is it a loud noise? What in their environment is truly making them feel this way? And then to write that down, so the next time you actually can understand a little bit more about that, and understand, maybe I shouldn't have these lights as bright. Maybe I should look at a way to accommodate this situation better to make it easier on my child. So I absolutely love that comment. So okay. I was reading one of the questions, and I was kind of I don't know how to answer that. I don't know if Hollie would be able to answer that. And now I just lost the comment. Oh, okay, great. Noreen writes, and this is a different question from the question I was just thinking about. Noreen writes, hey, Noreen. Noreen is a big follower of Carrie's Autism Journey. So, hey, Noreen. Do you have an amount you can socialize? My son seems to max out at 2 hours. Is that common?
I think that is extremely common, yes. I think for me, it can vary. The amount I can socialize will just depend on how I am feeling that day. And as I have mentioned before, I'm now at college, sixth form college, which in the UK is kind of, it's still education, but you're only there for 1, 2, 3. It can vary up to about 4 hours a day, and it is 10 times better. It's a lot less time socializing. I've noticed I can be more myself. I'm not exhausted afterwards. I have energy to do things on a night. And I do think school, 6 hours, 7 hours of socializing a day was far too much for me. And as
Me too.
yeah, all my family members will definitely say that I was a different person after school. I really was, compared to what I was on a weekend, which because I did socialize Monday to Friday, I was like, I needed to stay in my room on a weekend, I needed to watch the telly, and I needed to just do my own thing. Because whereas now I can maybe have more time to see my friends and do things that I want to do, because I haven't socialized as much during the week. So I definitely think that for a child with autism or an autistic child to have like a limit of socializing is very common. Definitely.
I love this question from Lisa. Hey, Lisa. Lisa writes, hi, Carrie and Hollie. Hollie, have you found that breathing techniques have helped at all during a meltdown? Change is one of her triggers as well.
It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The meltdown, for me, a meltdown I can have a lot of breathing struggles in a meltdown. I do breathe very rapidly when I'm having a meltdown, and sometimes breathing techniques have helped, and it does help for me to gain control of my breathing and to focus on something. Sometimes it doesn't. I think it's probably best to maybe see how it affects, maybe try it with your child or yourself, and just see how it works, really, because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It works more in anxiety situations maybe than a meltdown. If I'm really nervous about something, I'll sometimes try and focus on my breathing, because that can get a bit out of control. It's best for me to try and focus on breathing before the breathing gets a bit out of control, to kind of stop it from happening. So yeah, it just depends on the situation for me.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, Hollie. I was going to say something similar. I always say that breathing, especially with the meltdowns, definitely helps beforehand. But with a meltdown actually happening, for a lot of kids, there's a lot of sensitivity going on from all the senses. So going to breathing techniques is not necessarily going to be something that they're going to be able to function through while they're going through all the rest of the things. And the most important thing I say when it comes to meltdown is just be in the room. Obviously, like you said, Hollie, know the signs, but also just know that the meltdown will stop. Just be there, self-soothe if you can, and just try to be a support system while that child is going, or adult is going through that challenge.
Absolutely, yeah. I wouldn't have got through it without my mom. Like she's helped me so much throughout my times, like meltdowns and things like that. Her support's been amazing.
So April writes, hey, April. So April, we already kind of talked a little bit about this. So Hollie did not really receive that many therapies. She was diagnosed with autism at 9, and in the UK, the systems of supports are a little bit different. And we kind of just broke down ABA. April, I have a webinar on ABA that's available on my website. So definitely shoot me a message. I would be more than happy to send it to you so you could get a little bit more of a sense on that. Hollie, we kind of went through this already, but did you have any other final thoughts on ABA that you wanted to throw out there for April?
From what I've heard, I haven't heard anything. I haven't spoken to anybody that's been through ABA. I don't know if yourself has had ABA therapy. What I've heard, I know that a lot of autistic people in the community are quite offended by ABA, but I haven't really put enough research into it myself. Maybe it's something that I will research upon, but yeah, I have heard some negative things from ABA, but I'm just not really qualified to really give an opinion on it.
Well, I definitely appreciate that you said that, because I never had ABA myself. So even though I discuss it a lot from leading experts in the field and being able to have resources from them, I definitely don't go out and say, well, ABA is this, ABA is that. I don't have that first person perspective. So I really can't be a true expert on that topic. Hollie, we're just at about an hour. Again, everyone, my name is Dr. Carrie Magra, professional speaker and best-selling author and autism self-advocate. I'm here with Hollie, who has a tremendous social media channels, and actually Declan is sharing the social channels in the comments if you'd like to follow her after this Facebook Live. Hollie, do you have any final thoughts? Is there anything else that you would like for people at home to know about your story?
Just that never to be embarrassed of your diagnosis, your child's diagnosis, to embrace it, try and understand what your child needs, what you need, because that's the way that you're gonna really begin to understand yourself, and that's the way you're gonna get along in the world, really, because each individual has different needs and need to be supported in different ways, and yeah, just to really try and understand yourself and try and embrace your autistic diagnosis. That's all I can really say.
Nice. Well, again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Some great comments that came in. Obviously, thank you to our guest, Hollie, who was tremendous.
Thank you so much for having me.
And make sure that you follow her on YouTube, where she's posting weekly videos. And we have actually a special video coming up on our Facebook Live. We'll actually be talking tomorrow night. So definitely tune in to our Facebook page with Dr. Temple Grandin, Brent Maynard, and Julie Coy. I just wrote a foreword for a new children's book that Grant illustrated, who's an incredible autistic adult, with his mother, who actually wrote the book, which actually features Dr. Temple Grandin, and is a great children's book that we'll talk a lot more about tomorrow night on our Facebook page at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So get excited for that. And again, everyone, have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much.